to cover. So this is the Search for Self-Worth Part 5. And I just want you to know I'm just kind of taking my time on this series right here. I could rush through it, but I just want to take my time because it really, I don't know, it just resonated with me way down deep. So today we're going to go, I'll try to give you a few scriptures today. We're going to start out in John, the Gospel of John, chapter 3. And we'll start at verse 18. Not John 3:16, John 3:18. He that believeth on him is not condemned. That word condemned there is the word for judged. He that believeth on him is not judged. But he that believeth not is judged already, because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. This is the condemnation, or this is the judgment. Now listen to what he's saying here. This is the judgment, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than the light. Why? Because their deeds were evil. For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved, or that word is exposed. We surely don't want to be exposed, do we? But he that doeth truth, that word is practices. Same word. I could go back to verse 20 and say, for everyone that practices evil, hateth the light. Now, everybody that practices truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be manifest, that they are wrought in God. We got to play here between two kinds of people, right? Those that are in and of the truth, in and of the light, and those who are in and of the darkness. Remember, Jesus, you are of your father, the devil. Ever since the fall in the garden, and the fall is, that's when Adam and Eve believed the lie. They believed the lie. Ever since then, we've lived in a nocturnal world. Y'all know what that means? A world of darkness. Nocturnal, that means we're like bats. Bats don't come out in the daytime. Bats come out at night. We're like a bunch of bats. Now, you think I'm being crazy and silly here. I'm just telling you what Jesus said. Jesus said, men love the darkness. They don't want to be exposed. Now, why would he say that? Now, I know we get a religious mind going and we think, well, that's not me, that's not me. Remember I said, let's take our time here. Let's take our time. Let's put ourselves here. Let's let the Holy Spirit work this deep in our hearts. We don't want to be exposed. We're more at home in the darkness. We're more at home in a society of lies. Lies that don't even bother us. You realize how many lies there are around us, coming at us? I just want to throw a couple things at you. I mean, do you believe all the commercials that come at you every 6 minutes on TV that tells you if you'll buy this or take this, then you'll be the happiest person in the whole world? I mean, this will solve all your problems if you'll drink this beer. You know, I mean, that's what they tell you. If you'll take this pill, well, it'll be all right. And they're just lies. They come at us. Listen, just a side note here. You remember when they used to say, that certain TV shows or video games didn't affect people, didn't affect our kids, so it's all right. Well, you know, if that wasn't true, then why so many commercials? Because commercials affect you. So all that stuff that is coming in affects us. What you watch on TV, what you listen to on the radio, it all comes in and has an effect. Believe you me, it does. If it wasn't, they wouldn't pay billions of dollars to spend 30 seconds to come into your world if they knew it wasn't going to affect you. So it does. Everything that comes into your kid's life, it affects them. And it's a world of lies. How about your politicians? Oh, you know, if they come to you, they're going to be telling you the truth. I mean, if anybody's going to tell you the truth, they are, right? We know it's hogwash, but does it bother us? No, we've come to the conclusion that's the way the world is. We're at home in a world of lies. It's so common that we don't even think about it anymore. It's so common. It ought to make our skin crawl because it's not the truth. We are children of the day. You've gotten used to lies. And before we get puffed up and big-headed, we have all participated in the darkness. We've all participated in the lies. Every one of us. The bad thing about it is a lot of us feel comfortable in the darkness. Why? Because we feel safe in the darkness. I'm not exposed in the darkness. I don't want to be exposed. I don't really want you to know what I'm really like. I mean, I know these things are old tradition, but I've just got to tell you some of these things. You know why a lot of people want to dress up for their best on Sunday? They ain't doing it for the Lord. If they are, I mean, God would have told us in there in 2 Jude what to wear to church. You know what Paul says what to wear to church? He says, put on Christ. He didn't say put on a three-piece suit and women wear a dress. He said, put on Christ. Be clothed with His righteousness. And we've took righteousness to mean that's a black coat and tie and a long dress. But we want to come to church. Why? Because we don't want to be exposed. We want to put on our best. I don't really want you to know that I was so mad this morning when I got up and I tripped over the cat and the kids wasn't acting right and I burnt the toast and people pulled out in front of me and I almost went back and I got in the parking lot and I said, bless you, Brother Tim, as soon as I walked in. Life is great. And I'm lying through my teeth. Lying through my teeth. We hide from each other. We hide from God. But we've got 1,000 different ways. I'm going to expose some more of those ways today. And it's in that darkness, listen, it's in that darkness that we're hiding in that shame multiplies. That's where the shame multiplies. You know, it's like a fungus. You ever notice that? I mean, and with that shame that multiplies comes the multiplication of every problem that sin has ever brought into the world. It's coming out right there. Now, I've got to tell you this. We talked about this a little bit before, but there's a guilt, there's a shame. I'm going to call one of them a good shame, one of them a bad shame. Guilt, shame. I know you're thinking, what's the difference? That's what I'm going to tell you. When Adam felt the guilt in the garden, you remember? I mean, he felt something in the garden. Something wasn't right. They ate. Something wasn't right. He felt that down in his soul. That was a good shame, or that was a good guilt. If you did it and you feel guilty, then thank God Because that's proof that you can be saved. Though, you know, in the New Testament it talks about they had their conscience seared with a hot iron. You know what that means? That means it didn't bother them anymore. Have you ever seen people that could do stuff and they had no conscience about it? That's dangerous. When believers have a conscience about it, that's good guilt. That's good shame. That means I've approached the edge, the boundaries, the bulwarks of salvation here. It's that guilt that drives me to Jesus. It's that guilt that drives me to the point where I realize I need to be saved, and it points me to the cross that says I can be saved. Guys, why is anybody even in here? Was it because you were having the best day of your life and you excited to accept Jesus? That wasn't my experience. It was guilt and stuff that brought us this way.
Yes, amen.
Okay? So that's good guilt. And listen, you know, I mean, we're parents, and you know, the thing that bothers you worst when you're dealing with your kids is if they don't feel remorse for what they did. Now you got problems. But when they feel bad, that's good. That's good. I mean, here's Adam. He's done this deed. What does he feel? He feels afraid. He's not in control here. I mean, he's done something. He's not in control now. He's no longer in the arms of God's love. He feels weak. He feels inadequate. He feels lonely. He's afraid. All these summed up in this word afraid here. And you know what, guys? That was a good thing for him to feel. It was good. I don't know how you read the scriptures, but anyone that's been separated from the love of God ought to feel afraid. They ought to feel lonely. They ought to feel inadequate. You know what that is, guys? That's the holy nudge. You know what I'm talking about when I'm saying the holy nudge? You guys ever feel the holy nudge? Something ain't right. I did something wrong. I need some repentance. I need to feel the love of God. That's the holy nudge. And that's a good thing. What's scary is when you don't feel the holy nudge. You with me here? Because there's, that cross, the lamb as it had been slain. There's a slain lamb on the throne. There's a fountain open up in the house of David for sin and uncleanliness. And guys, some people, they might hear my messages and they think, oh, he don't preach against sin or whatever. Guys, we blow it all the time. And I'll show you some things here. I'll show you, but it's that holy nudge that sends us back to the light. You know, sometimes we're so used to the darkness, guys, it's hard to walk in the light. You know, when you first wake up in the morning, it's hard to open your eyes and get your eyes adjusted. We want to close them. We want to roll back over. We want to go back to sleep. Because we're used to it. Being in the darkness is so easy. Do you realize it's much easier to be lazy than it is to get up and go to work? I mean, lazy takes no effort. I don't have to be responsible. I can just lay around and sleep all the time. But to get up and to walk in the light. Now remember, we've been so filled with this shame and this darkness. And I know that when I go out and try to walk in the light, there is that potential for me to fall flat on my face and be exposed right in your eyes, and you'll know then that I wasn't a God that I portrayed myself to be. So it's so much easier to stay in the darkness and do nothing than to come into the light and be exposed. Why? Because of all this shame over here. Come unto me, all ye that are burdened, heavy laden, burdened. You're carrying this guilt of shame with you all the time. I mean, that's what Isaiah says. Salvation will God appoint for walls and bulwark. Love embraces us in that. You realize that? Love embraces us in that fear, in that loneliness, and it swallows all of that up. Swallows it up in His love and in His strength. And it's good guilt. It's good shame if we follow its directions. I mean, when we go out and we do something that's wrong and we feel guilty about it, God is saying, don't go that way. He's not. See, we just got to such an we got this view of such a mean God that He says, well, you blew it. The hell you got. I mean, is that how you raise your kids? Well, y'all blowed it. The hell you got. We tell them, don't do this because this will hurt you. I mean, that's what we do, right? We set the boundaries because they don't know that they'll be hurt if they do that, or it could kill them or maim them or hurt them. So God has put in the boundaries. Don't do that. And He put the boundaries in there with that holy nudge of guilt and says, Bev, don't do that. That's wrong for you to do that. It's wrong for you to say that. It's wrong for you to act this way. And you feel guilty about it. And when you feel guilty, you don't know what to do. You turn around, there's the cross. Yeah. Do you see? Because what is it? It's the goodness of God. The goodness of God that leads us to repentance. So there's a leading here, the holy nudge. And one of those leadings is that holy nudge of guilt. Remember we talked about God had two sheepdogs called goodness and mercies that was always on our trail. Goodness and mercy. The goodness of God we don't equate sometimes with guilt, but it's good that you feel guilty for acting that way. You should feel guilty for acting that way. God put that in there as a holy nudge to say repent. Turn back over here. You shouldn't be there. You see what I mean? That will destroy you. It'll eat you up like a cancer. It'll make you bitter and full of anger. It'll separate you from the love of God. Are you with me here? That's the good shame, the good guilt. But there's another shame that kills us. And that shame is the very atmosphere of hell. I'm trying to think. If I could, I don't know, sometimes I wish I had something to... When you and I were born into this world, we were born into the kingdom of darkness. Okay? We were born into and under the power of Satan. Hell already. That's where we were. Let's say this is hell and that's heaven. We were born right here, every one of us. We had to be born again over here. You with me? Well, let me just say this, and we'll go into some bigger explanation later down the road. I got some big things I want to teach you down the road. But so if I began over here already in hell, let me just say it this way, and then I die over here, hell's just a continuation. You see what I mean? But in today's society, we think we're born in the middle ground, and then one day I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there. We was all born right here, and when I was born again, I was caught up into heavenly places. So we've begun heaven now. This is not this is not it. Everything. I mean, there's way more. But I'm just saying we've begun it now. Just as these people have begun hell now. Are you with me? we'll get into some of that more. So shame is the very atmosphere of over here. Okay? Shame is its very atmosphere. Shame, the bad shame. The shame that causes us to hide from ourselves, hide from each other, hide from God. You know what that shame is? It's the shame that we're ashamed of the good shame. Do you get what I'm saying? Over here, now, remember over here I did something wrong and I'm guilty and I feel shame. The bad shame is that I'm ashamed of feeling ashamed. I'm ashamed, let me put it this way, I'm ashamed that I feel guilty. I'm ashamed that I don't feel I'm in control. I'm ashamed that I feel lonely. I'm ashamed of my weakness. Why? Because of the lie. The lie said, you should be God. You should be, you should know better. You should be strong. You should be in control of the situation. You should be able to figure it all out. You should be the perfect mom. You should be the perfect dad. You should be the perfect person at work. You should, look at you. You're supposed to be perfect, and you did that. You are pitiful. You better run and hide because people really know. Nobody will ever like you. How could they? You see what I mean? That's the bad shame. That's the shame that's controlling the world out there, the world that's full of lies. You guys ever notice the news media, what they do? They're like a bunch of piranhas. And anybody who has any what we would call success in the world, the paparazzi follows them every second of every day to do what? Expose them. Because sure, we can't have anybody doing anything. That's the way the world is. It's that shame, it's that driven shame. Because in that kind of world, if you're successful and you do something good, it means I didn't. You're better than me. I have got to prove that you're not. So it's a driving force. All of that because we believe the lie. The lie that says declare your independence from God and you'll be as gods. And God isn't supposed to feel guilty. You guys ever feel ashamed for feeling guilty? God isn't supposed to feel inadequate. You guys ever wake up and feel inadequate? Do you ever feel weak? Do you ever feel lonely? But see, a real God is not supposed to feel that way, so then we feel ashamed of feeling lonely. If I was a better person, more people would love me. And I wouldn't be lonely, so I've got to act like I've got it all going on when I go to work or when I go to do the things that I do. I've got to act like I got the answers to everything. I believe I ought to be able to handle the situations. I believe I ought to be able to handle life independently of God. What's the theme song of America? I was watching these things the other day, and, they have these little shows on, I believe it's called Football Life, where they'll take a player and kind of show his rise to stardom. And every time they talk about how these people did it, and the theme song is, I did it my way. And that's like the hero. I did it my way, and I struggled through, and look what a God I am, I did it. And then we read, they turned 50 years old, they're on drugs, and they got no money, and they've killed their wife, and they commit suicide, and why? Because they got exposed. They got exposed. They got exposed for being a human. We can't have that. You're just not a mere human. They made a statue of me. You know what I mean? And when I got exposed, I couldn't take it. And it's the driving force behind suicides. Look at you. If you was a good person, they wouldn't be picking on you. Something's wrong with you. You're lonely. You got no friends that are picking on you. Nobody likes you. You're a terrible person. You might as well. What is it? It's all from the lie. And see, guys, we separate these things from the church. And, you know, this is the world we live in. It's the world we live in. And listen, Tracy was reading something there last night about this new sheriff, and he's going to, you know the old saying, there's a new sheriff in town. My gosh, things are going to change. Let me tell you something. You can get every sheriff in the world and change them out every day, and it ain't going to change. You can elect a new president, and guess what? It ain't going to change, because it's of the darkness. And it's ruled by the powers of hell, Satan himself. It ain't going to change, and don't believe the lies. I'm telling you right now. There's truth. And that truth is Jesus Christ. And we may be in the world, but we ain't of it. There's another kingdom that we live in. The kingdom of His dear Son. So I believe I ought to be able to handle life independently of God. I ought to be able to take my perfect little life and take it back to God and say, see, God, look what I've done for you. Look, God, how I have served you. Do you realize how many people I hear say all the time? And you hear some things sometimes, so many times, we take a beautiful scripture, beautiful, and we can destroy everything. We can destroy every verse in the Bible. But I just hear it every day. And here's what this is. I just want to hear God say, well done, thou good and thou faithful servant. Inherit the great cities I've got for you. My Lord, what we do with such, because I want to prove to God I'm as good as He is. He gave me a city. I was faithful and I ruled over that city. And then He gave me 5 more cities. Well, I hope and pray y'all don't live in one of them cities. You know what I'm saying? Because I always want to ask, if everybody's going to get 5 cities, who's the folks going to live in them cities? Because I thought all them folks are going to be in hell. So are you going to be in hell ruling over 5 cities? Or I don't understand. Are these just the not so good Christians, the little Christians that only got little bitty cabins? This is what I wonder. All you big mansion Christians are going to be over here, and all you little old cabin Christians are going to be over here, and I'm going to have 5 cities. Oakley, he's going to be in my city. Yeah, he's going to be the sanitation worker. Yeah. You just wait. You see what I'm talking about? I mean, but when I feel out of control, if you're a God, I want you to see how this stuff comes over into the church. If I'm a God, I ought to be in control, right? If I'm a God, I ought to be able to know the future. My God, we got a bunch of people that goes around prophesies. And what do they think? When they start prophesying, they want to tell you the future. Do you realize that prophecy is not telling the future? Prophecy, do you know the prophets in the Old Testament, they spoke on behalf of God. Prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. So we want to prophesy. That's what gods do. Gods know the future. So, I'm telling you, we've brought all of this baggage, all of this junk from over here, right over here into the kingdom. And I want it to be exposed in the light. You see, when I don't feel in control, I feel lonely, I feel I'm a mess, but I don't want you to know that. I want you to think I got it going on. Because in my darkened brain, my darkened mind, I think if you really know me, you won't like me. Put on the show, Do you realize how many this morning are putting on a show? So I'm ashamed of my weaknesses. I'm ashamed of my guilt. I'm ashamed of my I don't knows. I'm ashamed of my loneliness, my inadequacy. I'm ashamed of everything I should applaud, because every one of those things that I feel guilty over is that holy nudge that is given to us to drive us to the cross. We sung a song, "Lead me to the cross." Do we really want that? Do we want to hide in the shadow? I mean, I read you John here, men love the darkness. He's taught. When Jesus said this, he wasn't talking to the Gentiles. He wasn't talking to the people in Rome. He was talking to the Jews. That's who he was talking to right here. He was talking to the church. He's saying, guys, y'all love the darkness. We're ashamed of that nudge. So what do? We do like Adam. We put on our fig leaves. Put on our fig leaves. We got this fear. I mean, if you ever found out what I'm really like, if God ever found out what I'm really like, if God really ever got on the inside of me and really knew me, He'd reject me. I mean, guys, I'm telling you the truth. You deal with this stuff, and I don't care who you are. I mean, you can come up here as a pastor or preacher, it doesn't matter. You have little mess-ups, little slip-ups along the way, and you look at other people who come and put on the show. And my gosh, some people are really good at putting on this show, and you think, man, God really likes them. He must have scraped the bottom of the barrel for me. It says, well, you're just a fill-in until I get a good one, you know. Think of it. That's that bad shame that comes in. And you know what that shame does? What that shame does, it leads me even subconsciously right into denial. It leads me into lies. And it's a necessity. It's a driving force inside of me. You know, we talk about sin as being a force. This is the force of it. I mean, I've got to lie. I've got to deny. I cannot let you know who I really am. I can't let God know who I really am. It's a necessity. I mean, I so desperately need your love and approval so that I can have somewhat of some semblance of self-worth here. Got to have your approval. We all live in a web of lies. Got our fig leaves. And do you realize this? With the presence of God, it increases. And I know you're thinking, no. Well, I mean, I could show you. I think it's over here. There's a verse in the Bible. Believe it or not. A verse. I believe it's in Thessalonians. Ding. Well, I can't find it. But anyway, they're tormented by the presence. Tormented by the presence. We can look it up later. But with God's presence, the shame increases. You realize, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but I want you to realize a lot of times we'll go into our closet. We were taught to go into our closet to pray, right? So we'll go into our closet to pray. And we'll go in there and pray, and we'll jibber jabber before God. And jibber jabber, jibber jabber, jibber jabber, jibber jabber. We'll make a real long prayer. Why? Because I don't want to be exposed. So we'll make a long prayer because I don't really want to be exposed in the presence of God. I won't go there and be exposed by being still and listening and being quiet. I'll go in there to tell God everything and go over and over and use all the these and all the thous and the thuses and get back out of His presence real quick and go on about my business. I did my prayer. I come into the presence of God, but I came in there covered up in my fig leaves because I don't want to be exposed, but I did my duty. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
You make long prayer. Why? Because I don't want to be exposed. Long robes and all of those things. I don't want to be exposed. Don't want God to see inside of me. It's another fig leaf. We use prayer as a fig leaf. It's why people have so much noise and busyness all around. So you'll never have to really face who you are. You know? That's why people's got to be busy all the time. Because I don't really want to stop and face who I am. I can never be still and know that He is God. I can never, ever be still. I got to have something coming in, some wall, some fig leaf, something to hide, something. Right? Noise blasting, just always. Noise. Being busy. Have you ever I got to ask you a question. Have you ever just stood in the presence of God? No worship, no prayer, and be known of God? We won't. You know why? Because we're scared, because we love the darkness, because we don't want our deeds to be exposed. I mean, because we have this fear that if I'm exposed, God will reject me. I was afraid. That's why when God showed up in the garden in paradise, what did Adam do? Adam felt the need to lie. He felt the need to pass the buck. God says, Adam, what have you done? I don't know how you read that, but those are the most beautiful words. I mean, I don't know how you hear those words. Do we hear them as, Adam, what have you done? Or Adam, what have you done, Adam? What have you done? God who knows all, do you think God didn't know? You think God showed up and said, well, I thought Adam would be. I wonder where he's at. Hey, angels, help me find Adam. I got a question for you. Do you believe that God is all-knowing? Yeah, everybody says amen. Do you believe God is all-present? So God was with Adam when Adam and Eve fell. Yeah, He was. He wasn't off somewhere doing something. He wasn't over here making Mars. Oh, gosh, turn my back 1 minute. Let me get back to earth. He was with Adam. Humiliates himself. This silly man, Adam, thinking he can hide from God. God humiliates himself. In other words, He chose to put the ball in Adam's court. He knew what Adam had did. He was there with Adam when he did it, and yet He puts the ball in Adam's court. Adam, what have you done? He says, Adam, where are you? He knows where Adam is. Where are you? He's calling Adam out of the shame. He's saying, look, you've walked over there into the shame. I'm calling you out of the shame. Adam, take your shame and bring it to me. Bring it out here. Tell me that you blew it. I don't know. I got to tell you this little story here. There's an old saint, if you will, called Jerome. Anybody that's done any early Christian writings, he wrote. Jerome was born in about 350 A.D. Jerome translated the Bible into Latin. he wrote the Latin Vulgate. Because when the scriptures were written, they were written in Hebrew and Greek. Okay? Well, we know we had the Roman Empire at that time, and everything was Latin. So he wrote the Latin Vulgate. And also, just, if you was to ask anybody what was the fruit that Adam and Eve ate, unanimous around the world, they're going to say it's an apple. Right? The forbidden fruit was an apple. Well, where did that come from? It come from Jerome. Because as he was translating, this is just a side note, don't mean anything. As he was translating the Bible, the Latin word for evil and apple is the same word. They just got two different meanings. So he put it in there as a pun. Y'all know what a pun is, a P-U-N. And then this guy came along in the 1600s named John Milton. And John Milton wrote a poem called Paradise Lost. And John Milton picked up on that and saw the pun in Jerome's writing, so they called it the forbidden fruit, the apple. So that's where the apple comes from. It's not in the Bible. But anyway, Jerome had spent many years translating the Bible. And he finished just before Christmas. And he decides to spend Christmas there, so he stays in one of the little places in Bethlehem. And he has a vision. And in his vision, it's about midnight. Right here, Christmas. He's in Bethlehem. And Jesus appears to Jerome, who has just spent 15, 20, 30 years translating the Bible. And Jesus appears to him and says, Jerome, what will you give me for my birthday? And Jerome immediately, he's enthusiastic. He replied, Lord, I'll give you my translation of your word. I mean, I've worked on 15 years. This is awesome. I can give you something. Isn't there a whole bunch of people today want to come to church to give Jesus the goodness of everything that they did? So excited. I get to go give Jesus something. I mean, he's the one that asked, what will you give me? But Jesus didn't congratulate Jerome, but he replied, no, Jerome, that's not what I want. Jerome was speechless, and he began to complain. And he began to ask Jesus, why did you let me go on for 40 years here, far from home, laboring at something, and now you don't even want it? It's been 40 years here. I want to give you the best of my work, and you don't even want it. Jerome suggested other ways. Jesus just remained silent. So Jerome starts thinking other ways to honor Jesus. I mean, we'll start new church programs. That'd be good, right? How about more reading, more studying? Oh, I'm going to really get into the Bible this time. Oh, how about rededication, Jesus? Oh, that'll make you happy. I'm going to rededicate. Oh, how about giving out tracts? How about being a witness? That'll be good. I'm going to give that to you, Jesus. Because all these things we're told, right? How about serving God? I mean, my Lord, Jesus needs to be served, because I've heard you better serve Him, you better serve. Wonder what He needs of your service. Because I hear in the Bible it says if He was hungry, I wouldn't even tell you. Because I don't need nothing from you. Nothing. Zero. You bring nothing to the table. Nothing. You are not a God. You are loved by Him. You with me? God says, oh, I got to make me some people. I need somebody to serve me. To each, I mean, how about more fasting? How about more giving? I mean, take all that you have, give it to the poor. That'd be good. Surely that'd make Jesus happy. I mean, He's happy. I gave $20 to a poor guy today. Jesus is happy. But to each one of these, Jesus replied, no, Jerome, that's not what I want. Finally, Jerome says, well, tell me, Lord, what would what would you give what would give you the most joy? Tell me, and you shall have it. And Jesus said, Jerome, do you promise? And Jerome says, yeah, I promise. Tell me what would give you the most joy. Jesus replied, I come for your sin. Did you get what I'm telling you? We'll give Jesus everything but our sin. We will bring the world to His feet, but we won't give Him our cares. What makes Jesus happy? Cast all your cares upon Him. But see, if you think you're God, you think you can handle it, then you'll just carry Him all along with you. You'll just bear every one. You'll bear your own burdens. You'll carry it all alone. You see, because I got to prove that I'm a God. Here is Adam in the woods, in the fig leaves, and God is saying, Adam, I'm giving you the chance. I'm not here to condemn you. We've been reading these verses. I didn't come to condemn the world. I mean, that's what He says. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. Whosoever believeth in Him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. That word perish there is an ongoing word. It means it's the same word as the lost sheep. The sheep was lost. Right? That word perish is the same word as lost. It means you're lost. Listen, God knows where you're at. It's you don't know where you are. So He came because you're in the darkness. You're lost. And look, God says, I'm coming into your lostness. And then He says, for God sent not His Son into the world to judge the world, to condemn the world, but that the world through Him might be saved.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Adam, what have you done? Tell me, Adam, what have you done? Don't let me tell you what you've done. You bring it to me. Open up the door. What is Jesus saying? I'm standing at the door and knock. Open up the door. Tell me what you have done. Bring your weakness to me. Bring your sin to me. Bring it to me. Bring what you're ashamed of to me. Do you realize that's the most difficult thing for us to do in the world? Is to bring what we're most ashamed of to Jesus? We're used to skulking in the bushes and hiding behind the fig leaves. I don't want to bring what I'm ashamed of to Jesus. I want to bring what I'm proud of. Because see, if I bring, listen to these verses. Everyone that practices evil hates the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. But he that practices truth, cometh to the light. You know, I mean, it's one of them things over here, well, Lord, I messed up. That was the stupidest thing anybody's ever done, and I'm bringing it to you. I'm falling in your arms right now. I flat bloated. I messed it up. I don't even know. Only you can fix this. God would have forgiven Adam right away. Do you believe that? He would have forgiven him right away. But we think God came as a God of wrath. That's the one that's preached from all these pulpits today. Ticked off God, ready to bust everybody up. But God comes as grieved in His heart. Paul mentioned that. Don't grieve the Holy Spirit. Do you realize there's a grieving that you can grieve God? Just like your kids can grieve you. Just like you grieved your own parents. When you watch them do things that you know is going to harm them, that is a wrong decision, and you're saying, why don't do that? Please don't do that. Come to me and I can fix it. And there was no judgment here in Genesis to follow. It was simply that God said, this will be the result. This will be the result. The only excitement there in Genesis is when God tells them through the seed of the woman that He'll redeem them. That was exciting to God. Here's how I'm going to get you back. That I'm going to bring a seed to the woman. God so loved them even in their darkness, they didn't see it. And when Adam begins to talk, what's he do? All he does is begin to deny. He's got to keep himself barricaded off from God. Can't tell the whole truth. Got to blame shift. Got to make excuses. Eve, she takes some blame, then she blames shift. She starts blaming it on the devil and everybody else. Iniquity is passed on. And we're going to be looking at this more as we go into these other lessons. Iniquity is passed on. Cain, one generation removed, Cain didn't need any lessons in denial. It came with the darkness. It came as a package deal. I mean, Cain murders Abel. Y'all realize Cain murdered Abel? God comes and asks him, Cain, what have you done? Just one generation removed from the garden, man has learned the art of barricading and hiding himself from God. Only now he does it with arrogance. Look at the arrogance. Adam and Eve stood there afraid. They were afraid, not Cain. God shows up to Cain and says, where is your brother? What does Cain say back? I don't know, find him yourself. Am I my brother's keeper? Will you come to me? Think of the arrogance. One generation. See it come as a package deal with the darkness. Didn't have to be taught it. And just think how far away. We're thousands of generations removed from that. Think how perfect we've perfected the art of denying and hiding. As long as I am looking to other people for love and security, significance, for identity, I'll spend my life working and hiding my imperfections from everybody around me. Because shame says if they find out, they would never love me. Are y'all ready for this? Y'all sitting down? Oh yeah, y'all sitting down. We even do it with our own age. We deny our age. Because we feel if they really find out how old we are. Because really we live in an age that's summed up in the strength of youth. And if they really find out that I'm old enough to croak, they won't like me. So I've got to do everything I can to hide my own age. Right? Do you realize the Bible talks about the honor of the gray hair? I mean, it really does. But in our society, we can't expose that. I've got to act like I'm 25 at all times. Yeah. Can't let them know how old I am. Got to hide it. Got to hide it. I just want you to see how much of this lie that we have brought over here that we don't associate, because it's just common. It's ingrained in us. We're so desperate for approval. How about Peter? You remember Peter on the night of the betrayal of Jesus? Jesus said, you guys are all going to betray me. You're all going to be like sheep scattered. Peter went to great lengths to jump up. And to prove not me, why would he do that? What gave him that urge? I mean, these guys were friends, right? 3 years they've been together. They were his best buddies. And he jumps up and slam dunks his best buddies. And says, Jesus, they all probably will. I know them. They all probably will, but I won't. What gave Peter the urge to jump up and say that? Say, I'll never do. Jesus knew what was in Peter's heart. He knew what was in all their hearts, and he just said it. Peter knew what was in Peter's heart too, and he was terrified of it. That's why he felt the great urge to jump up and start denying it. Because he was horrified of the fact that I will be one to deny Jesus. I'm horrified of that fact, so I have to preach against it. I mean, do you notice the preacher that has a personal problem, a particular sin, he preaches most against that sin? If you have wisdom and ears to hear, you watch. Preachers that are always preaching against a certain sin, they got the biggest problem with that sin. We're all a bunch of Peters. Not me, Lord, I'm not like that. Not me, Lord, I'm not like that. Not me, Lord, I'll never do that. I'll never do that. The more that sin gets in our hearts, the louder we preach against it. And I'm drawn to it, and it's too painful to admit that, man, I thought I was a God, but now I'm not, and I can't admit that. Why didn't Peter just come to Jesus and say, you know what, Jesus, you're right. I'm scared to death. I'm scared, Jesus. I'm scared to death. I don't know what's going to happen. We were going to deny you. It's in me. I probably will deny you. I'm scared to death, Jesus. Why didn't he come to Jesus with that? Jesus, I need your help. But because he was afraid. He was afraid that the truth came out, that all of his friends would deny him. I mean, he's big, bold Peter, right? If they really knew he was wimpy on the inside, they wouldn't like him. And then Jesus, what's Jesus going to think of him? Jesus is going to think he's wimpy and probably deny him, and he's going to be the only disciple left out. See, I told you we don't really know God. Remember, we don't really know him. So my only option is to deny because I'm terrified on the inside. So I deny boldly on the outside. See, denial is this alternative reality. I would rather have the alternative reality. The one that's built on the illusion of the lies. That illusion to how I wish things really were. I don't like the fact that I'm weak. That I'm inadequate. That I don't know. That denial is birthed in the womb of fear. What was Adam's first recorded words? Man's first words? I was afraid. Afraid everyone would know what I've done. Afraid everybody will know what I'm like and they wouldn't love me. So I lie and I cover and I hide. I mean, have you ever really stood before God just as you are? I mean, isn't this the number two? The number one Christian song of all time is Amazing Grace. What's the number two? Just as I am, without one plea. Do we really believe that? Heck no. We sing it just as I am, but it's a terrifying idea to stand before God without an excuse. We confess sin, but we do it so quickly and we add in all of our excuses. Yeah, I sin, but. I mean, ain't that what we do? I sin, but look at the family you put me in. Look at the people I work with. They caused me to cuss. Right? I would have never done it, but they pulled right out in front of me, tore up my brand new car. We got little attorneys in our head that come to our case every time, they want to defend us. Well, Lord, I sinned, but here's the reason why. And a little attorney shows up and we start making excuses. We don't miss it. We give an excuse for it. We haven't stood in God's presence just as we are. We hide behind our excuses. And what the church is most guilty of, listen to me here, is coming to God with promises. I'm not coming to God with just as I am. I'm coming to God as just as I will be. I've got to come up to God and make Him some more promises. I know this is how I am right now, but God, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do better. I'm going to start reading more, studying more, praying more. I'm going to start going to church more. I'm going to start giving more. I'm going to start doing all these things. God, I will fix it. See? I don't come just as I come just as I am, but I promise God just as I will be. I mean, how many today are going to walk forward to some altar to tell God what they didn't do or what they did and what they promised faithfully to do from now on? Absolutely zero has been accomplished. Zero. Y'all know what zero is? Zero. Because you've come hiding behind a promise. We hide behind blaming excuses, and we even hide behind our promise. Rededication is just adjusting the fig leaves. And what are you doing in rededication? You're going to rededicate your life to God. Another fig leaf, another promise you've made. You've come up here mortgaging your future. I can't do it now, God, but I promised that I will do it. I'll do better tomorrow. Now what happens? Now I feel better. I've hid the truth from God. God knows you can't do it. I mean, do you realize that God knows you can't keep a promise? He knows that. Do you realize God knows He made you weak? He made you that apart from Him, you can do nothing? I mean, do you know that He made you that you couldn't even have the brains to blow your nose except you learn to live by His wisdom? Do you realize that? Listen. It brings me to this verse. Let me just go over here and get this real quick. Here's Ecclesiastes. We were talking about this a little bit the other day. Listen to this. Ecclesiastes chapter 5. When thou vowest a vow unto God, I'm in verse 4, defer not to pay it, for He hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow than thou shouldest vow and not pay. I mean, what's he talking about right here? See, we get this mindset of a mean God. And God says, but God, you promised me you didn't do it. I'm going to bust you. So what do we say? Better not vow to God because God will get you. So we have a mindset of a mean God. I mean, the Holy Ghost promised. She came up to the altar in front of everybody. She vowed a vow that she was going to start coming to church. And look, 2 weeks in, she doesn't quit. Should have never vowed a vow. You got to take everything that I've said in this light right here of this shame that comes. You know, 1 Corinthians 15 says the strength of sin. You know what the strength of sin is?
The law.
The law. What gives the law, or what gives strength to sin? The law. That sounds crazy. I mean, let me tell you something, guys. God gave this beautiful law which testified of His Son, which pointed us to Christ. But Satan got all of his power from the law of God. And he gets it from our laws, from our vows, from our promises. Because Satan could always say, look at that law. You didn't do it. You're unworthy. You're guilty. Satan looks at every vow you make and says, look, you couldn't keep it. You couldn't do it. Look, he's not telling you in Ecclesiastes that God is angry when He does it. It breaks His heart because He knows that you just gave the devil more power and shame over you. Do you understand what I'm saying? He always looks at those things. I'm unworthy, I'm unworthy, I'm unworthy. But I want you to understand something. Jeff, I'm done here. Satan has been cast down. This one who has held me in bondage with this shame and this guilt has been cast down. How did they overcome, guys? They overcame not by fighting the devil. I wish people would hear me right here. I've heard so many people say, I told the devil to do this. I told the devil to fight the devil. You've missed the point. You've missed the Bible. They didn't overcome the devil by telling him what to do. They overcome the devil by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony.
Yes. Hallelujah.
What does that mean? I'm overcoming because something already happened 2,000 years ago. And you can no longer bring this shame to me. There is therefore now no condemnation to those over here, atmosphere of shame and hell. Over here, no condemnation. You cannot bring a charge against me. Why? I'm crucified with Christ.
Yes, yes.
Crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I. It's a brand new life in me. I overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony.
Hallelujah.
Jesus is standing at the door and knocking. See, guys, that's the gospel.
Yes.
The good news. Jesus is standing at your door saying, what will you give me, Beb? What will you give me? And we want to give him everything. And he says, I want your shame. Bring it here to the light. I want your guilt. I want your sin. Bring it all to the light. But he that practices truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be manifested, exposed. I mean, do you ever just do that? Because I've told you, you can trust him.
Yes.
He is a good, good Father.
Yes.
You don't have to come growling like a dog. You're not a dog. You're his children. And you can bring all of your mess to him. He was with you, Kathy, when you did it.
Yes, amen.
He was. The whole time he was with you when you did it, when you thought it, when the words came out of your mouth, and then the whole time you're trying to hide it. He's knocking on the door. And he said, there's blood for you. There's a table set for you. Come over here. Bring it to me. Then it can be exposed. Because once it's exposed, it's over. It's done. You with me? It's done. They overcame. When you bring it, guys, for the first time in your life, you'll understand why it's the good news. So we're not coming to God trying to manipulate God with our good works, with our promises, with our long prayer, with none of that. We'll just come to Him and hear Jesus as asking you, what will you give me? What will you give me? I'll give you all my mess.
Yes.
Jesus, I'm going to give you all my mess today. You know? And that sounds crazy, don't it? I thought Jesus wanted all my money. I thought He wanted all my time. I thought He wanted all my prayer. I thought I wanted all my worship. I bring Him that mess, and out from that I worship. Out from that I find out He's worthy to be worshipped. Because He was the Lamb slain. And He was slain because of my mess. And my shame and my guilt. And He's still the Lamb as it had been slain. Still the Lamb slain right there. And I find out that He's worthy to be worshipped. I think that He's worthy for me to cast my crown at His feet. He's worthy to be praised. He's worthy. I find out that our Father has already set His King on His holy hill of Mount Zion. And Mount Zion, it is a mountain that is a mountain of praise. And it's a mountain of worship. That's what it is, guys. That's Mount Zion. And how is it? It's because I can bring my shame to Him. I can bring my guilt to Him. I can bring my weaknesses. Every inadequacy I've got, I can bring it to Him. Throw it down. And He says, that's what's pleasing me. That's why I came. That's why I come knocking on your door all the time. And they overcame by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of the testimony. By the word of their testimony. I'm testifying. I'm rested in the fact that it is true. So we're done with it. Shame and guilt, it's gone.